Yes, sir, I do.
And when did you first learn about Mr. Bishop?
In around February 2017.
Okay. And how old would you have been at that point?
19.
How did you learn about him?
I came across one of his videos on Facebook.
Okay. And what was going on in your life at that time?
At the time, I was on like a spiritual journey, seeking, basically like on a spiritual journey.
Okay. And where were you living at that point?
At that point, I was in North Carolina.
And what were your impressions of the video that you saw online of Mr. Bishop?
At the time, since I was in a space of seeking and spirituality, his teachings resonated with me at the time.
How so?
Just natural living, connecting to nature, being vegan. It was all things that I was aligning with at the time in my life.
And when did you leave home to go and stay with the group for the first time?
April of 2017.
About 3 months after you first started seeing the videos?
Yes.
And how long did you stay that first time?
The first time I stayed for 2 days.
And where was the group at that point?
They were in Costa Rica.
Did you ever go back?
I did.
And how long between when you left the first time to when you went back, I guess, when you went there for the second time, how long did you stay out of the group?
3 years.
So it would have been, was it sometime in 2020 when you went back?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember what month?
Around the same time, April of 2020.
Okay. So would you have been about 22 at that point?
Yes.
And what was going on in your life in those 3 years between the first time you went and when you went back?
Around the same thing. At the time, I wasn't a part of the group, but I was still following the teachings, watching his videos, and keeping up with everything that was going on in the group. So I was still on this spiritual journey and wanting to live in community.
And what drew you back to them?
I formed a relationship with one of the members.
Okay. And what was that person's name?
Mente in the group, his actual name is Jacob.
Okay. And was that an in-person relationship at first, or was that over the internet, or how did you all communicate?
It was over the internet.
And was Jacob a part of the group?
Yes.
And when you rejoined the group in 2020, where were they located?
In Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. And about how many people were there?
Maybe 15, 20. I'm not really sure the exact number, but at least 20, or at least 15. Yeah.
And when you got there, I guess, how did you get from North Carolina to Atlanta?
I was actually living in Atlanta at the time.
Okay.
When I joined the second time.
Okay. And so once you joined, what was that like? What were your first impressions?
Everyone was very welcoming. My first impressions the second time were like it was a good vibe. Like everything was good at first.
And how was before you joined the second time, did you really have a relationship with Mr. Bishop himself?
No.
And when you joined in 2020, what were your impressions of Eligio Bishop?
My impressions. That he was the leader of the group, and that was my impressions.
Okay, and when you got there, were there rules?
Yes.
What were some of the rules?
One of the first rules for me is I wasn't allowed to speak to my partner at the time. We weren't allowed to be in a relationship.
And was that Jacob?
Yeah,
And where did that rule come from?
from Mr. Bishop.
And how were these rules enforced?
We weren't allowed to talk virtually or in person.
What were the sleeping arrangements? Do you remember?
Everyone was dispersed. I was sleeping upstairs in the house that we were at on the floor by his room.
Okay. And if someone didn't like a rule or didn't agree with it, were they able to say no?
No.
What would happen if you did?
You would have to leave. There would be meetings. I've seen people in closets. There was different. It really depended on the time and what was going on at the time.
And what was Mr. Bishop known by?
Baba G. That was his name when I was there.
Okay.
Yeah. And at a certain time, he wanted us to call him. I know there was Chief, and then, yeah.
How did the defendant refer to the world outside of the group?
Babylon, Hell.
And were you able to maintain communication with family and friends on the outside?
There was only one time, but it was because of resources, to get resources.
When you say resources, what do you mean?
Money.
Judge, this might be an appropriate time for the limiting instruction pertaining to 413.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes evidence is admitted for a limited purpose or for some counts and not others. Such evidence may be considered by the jury for the sole issue or purpose and only for the counts for which the evidence is limited and not for any other purpose. In order to prove its case in count 1 rape, the state has offered evidence of other offenses of sexual assault allegedly committed by the accused. You are permitted to consider that evidence for its bearing on any matter to which you find it to be relevant. The defendant is on trial for the offenses charged in this bill of indictment only, and not for any other acts, even though such acts may incidentally be criminal. Before you may consider any other alleged acts, you must first determine whether the accused committed the other alleged acts and whether such acts were in fact acts of sexual assault. If so, you must then determine whether the acts shed any light on the elements of the crimes charged in the indictment in this trial. Such evidence is at most supporting evidence of some issues and may not by itself be the basis of conviction for the case on trial. By giving this instruction, the court in no way suggests to you that the defendant has or has not committed any other acts, nor whether such acts, if committed, prove anything. This is solely a matter for your determination. Go ahead.
Brianna, did anything happen that during your time in the group that made you believe the defendant had developed a sexual interest in you?
At a certain point, yes.
And about how long after you went back did you start to notice that?
It's time, not just to go back to school, but to come back and move forward. Start your comeback today at PurdueGlobal.edu.
Right before I left. So I think it was like at month 5 or 6.
Okay. And was the group still in Atlanta at that point?
No, we were in Mexico, in Cancun, Mexico.
Okay. And did you share the defendant's interest for a sexual relationship?
No.
And were you able to express your feelings to the defendant?
We never had that type of relationship to where it was, I never wanted to be in a relationship with him because I was already in one.
Okay. Did you talk about that with Mr. Bishop?
No. At the time, all the women were put in a position where we were separated from the men, and he claimed that we all had to be his wife. So there wasn't really a conversation, it was more so he made it that way.
And did he ever act on his sexual interest in you?
Yes.
And where were you all at that point?
In Cancun, Mexico.
And what was the living situation in Cancun?
We were in an Airbnb, all the women with him, and then all the men were in another one.
Okay. And what happened?
So it was at a time where he wanted us to approach him a certain way by calling him my king. There was a time where I was called to the room and I didn't approach him the way he wanted me to, so he made me do squats, which was kind of like a punishment if you were out of line. And he made one of his wives leave the room, and from there, it led to him raping me.
And so one of his wives, what was that person's name, do you know?
Velvet.
And so Velvet left the room, and what happened next?
The door was closed, and then he came on to me.
What did he do?
He raped me angrily.
And when Velvet left the room, were your clothes on?
Yes.
And did they stay on?
I don't remember.
Okay. And once she left, where were you in the room?
I was standing by the door at first, and then after she left is when he called me over to him.
Okay. And what did he called you? Where was he?
He was laying on the bed at first.
Okay. And so he called you over. What happened after that?
I recall him asking me to give him oral, and then that led to him, I don't remember giving him oral or anything, but I remember him asking me, and then he got up off the bed, and then we ended up near the bathroom, and that's when the situation happened.
Okay. Near the bathroom, like on the floor or standing up?
On the floor.
Okay. And so at that point, what did you said the situation happened, and I'm sorry, but you had to, what did he do to your body?
He penetrated me anally.
Oh, overruled.
So you can answer the question, Brown?
He penetrated me anally.
And what were you doing at that point?
I feel like I was shut down at the moment. It was a time where he just separated me from my relationship, and I had just also, it was like a lot of tension in the house because I had also just witnessed the women jumping another woman, and yeah, in that moment I feel like I had shut down.
And were you injured as a result of that incident?
I was.
And can you describe that?
I was ripped.
And did you seek the assistance of any of the other members to treat those injuries?
I did. It was a moment after it happened that I went to the bathroom because I was in pain and bleeding. I'm not sure exactly which women came to help me, but there was a few that looked at it for me, and they confirmed that I was ripped.
Did you feel in that moment like you could say no to Mr. Bishop?
No, that's what I was referring to as far as I felt like I shut down in that moment when it was happening.
What do you think would have happened if you had tried to say no?
Well, if I'm now considered his wife, I really didn't know what to expect. I just know based off of how he's treated the other women that were his wives, that if they were not to submit to him, that it would end up in some type of abuse. So that's just the mindset that I had in the moment.
After that happened, how many more days did you spend in his group?
Less than a week.
And did you report anything to the Mexican authorities?
No.
Did you report anything to authorities here in America?
Not until this case started.
If I could have a second, Your Honor.
Okay.
You had witnessed abuse of other women. Are you referring to Velvet?
Velvet, mainly Velvet and Malia.
That's all the questions I have.
Cross.
Judge, good day, Ms. Jacobs. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right, my name is Robert Booker. I represent Mr. Bishop. Just a couple of questions for you. All right, so I think you indicated on your direct examination in February 2017 that you were on a spiritual journey and that you went to Puerto Rico. Where did you go in February 2017? To
In Costa Rica.
Costa Rica. And that was the first time you met Mr. Bishop, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And where were they staying in Costa Rica?
At an Airbnb.
Okay, where?
When I first got there, they were traveling to different waterfalls, so we were at a water. When I arrived, we went straight to where they were at a waterfall.
How
And we were
did
camping there.
Sorry, court reporter. All right, I have to say something. Be quiet, let you talk, and vice versa. That way, the court reporter is not mad at both of us. All right, so you went and stayed at an Airbnb in Costa Rica.
Yes.
Okay, and there were other people there.
Yes.
How did you get there?
I flew there.
You flew there. Where did you fly from?
North Carolina.
Okay, and who paid for you to go?
One of the former members.
And who was that?
Philip Goss.
Philip who?
Philip Goss.
Oh, so Philip Goss paid for you to go to Costa Rica.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And when you got there, you said you joined. What do you mean by join? Was there something to sign, or you just by showing up you joined?
By showing up, I joined.
Okay. All right. And so you guys, did they meet you at the airport?
It wasn't. It was just Philip.
Oh, just
He
Philip.
came to get me from the airport, and then we went to
Okay.
where they were.
Okay, which was an Airbnb.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, we weren't at the Airbnb yet. We went straight to where they were camping.
Okay, to a camping location.
Yes.
Okay, and then later was an Airbnb.
Yes.
How long were you there in Costa Rica?
For the all together, a month, but with the group, only 2 days.
So you were in Costa Rica for a month. So if it was a 30-day month, 28 days you were away from them, and 2 days you were with them?
Yeah.
Okay, where were you at for the other 28 days?
I was at one of my friends' land.
Who?
Her name is Blakely. She's somebody that I had met, and she had land in Costa Rica.
Okay, so for 28 days of the month, you're with Blakely, your friend who you just met and went to Costa Rica to see.
No,
Right.
I originally went to Costa Rica to join the group, but when I got there, he mentioned that I wasn't ready, so I ended up leaving to go to Blakely's.
Who was he?
Mr. Bishop.
So he, essentially, you were not able to join the group because he told you you couldn't.
Yes.
Okay, so you get there, you can't join the group, go somewhere else, you stay somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay, so you're there 2 days.
Yes.
2 days and 2 nights, or 3 days and 2 nights, or how?
2 days, 2 nights.
Okay, so if you got there on a Monday morning, you stayed there all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and left on a Wednesday. That
Yes.
sound right? Okay, so you're there 2 days, so 48 hours basically, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what did y'all do for those 2 days?
Like I said, we were at the waterfall for the first day.
Sorry.
And then after that, we went to the Airbnb. I just recall having a meeting. In that meeting, it was decided that I wasn't to stay.
Okay, so in the 1 day that you were at the Airbnb, you were in a meeting where it was decided that, hey, this girl can't be here. You went somewhere else.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that was your time in Costa Rica. You left after that. Where'd you go to?
After Costa Rica?
Yes, ma'am.
I went to California to work.
To work. What were you doing in California?
I worked on a farm there.
On a farm. Did you have family there?
No.
Did you stay in contact with your family?
Kinda not. At the time I wasn't close to my family.
Okay, so you were not talking to your family in California for the most part?
No.
Okay. Your mom and dad didn't know where you were?
They knew where I was, yes.
Okay. But you didn't stay in contact with them on a regular basis?
No.
Okay. And how long were you in California for?
At least a year.
Okay, so approximately a year. Okay,
Yes.
When is the next time that you get in contact with Eligio Bishop and this group of people? After that?
I'm pretty sure there was some type of contact in between going back. I just don't recall, but for sure it was in 2020.
Okay, and where were they at in 2020?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, and how long were you with them in 2020?
Almost 6 months.
Okay, and was that all here in Atlanta?
No.
Where else did you spend time at?
We were in Hawaii, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Mexico.
Okay, Hawaii, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Mexico. Okay, and that was all over a 6-month time frame.
Yes.
How long were you in Hawaii for?
Just I can't remember. I think like a week because we ended up in jail.
Okay, a week? All of you?
Maybe a week and a few days. Yeah.
Okay, all of you went to jail?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Las Vegas, how long were you there?
A few months.
A few months.
I don't know the exact number.
Okay, less than 6 months, obviously, right?
Yes.
Okay. How about in Los Angeles? How long were you there?
Just a few weeks.
A few weeks. And in Mexico?
I was there maybe 2 weeks.
Maybe 2 weeks. Okay. And was Mr. Bishop with you guys all that time?
Yes.
Everybody was together?
Yes.
Okay. And your living arrangements in Hawaii, how did you live there?
In Hawaii, at first we were in an Airbnb.
Okay, so in Hawaii you were in an Airbnb?
Yes.
Okay. And was it, how many people were there in Hawaii?
Like 20.
20? So 20 people in an Airbnb?
Yes.
Okay. Males and females?
Yes.
Okay. All in one big place?
Yes.
Okay. And Las Vegas, 20 people as well?
Yes.
How were you staying there?
We all lived in one house together.
One house. Everybody, all males and females in the same house?
Yes.
Okay. All right. What about Los Angeles?
We lived in an apartment there.
20 people in an apartment?
Yeah.
Sounds like some tight living.
It was.
It was. Okay. All right. And in Mexico?
That's when we were separated. We had 2 different houses for the women and then the men.
One for the women and one for the men. But out of that 6 months, based on your testimony, only 2 weeks out of the 6 months were men and women separated, right?
At a time, I think in Atlanta, when I first got there, the men were downstairs and the women were upstairs. So
Okay.
it was kind of like that.
It would be hard to do that in an apartment with 20 people, right?
We weren't separated then.
Okay.
We were allowed to be with our partners.
Okay.
Or in our relationship at the time.
Okay, so in Hawaii and in Las Vegas, you were allowed to be with your partner as well?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't other than the time here in Atlanta or the 2 weeks that were in Mexico that it was not allowed to be with your partner?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, prior to this case it being ever heard of, you had never given a statement to law enforcement, had you?
No.
You'd never been interviewed by law enforcement before?
No.
You never made a police report?
No.
You never let anybody know your involvement with this group at all, right?
Not as far as the law enforcement, no.
Okay. And so after the 6 months that you spent between Hawaii, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Mexico, and Atlanta in 2020, was that the only time you spent around the group?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the state asked you what would happen if people disagreed with Mr. Bishop, and your response was that they would have to leave, or there would be meetings, or sometimes you saw people in closets, is what I wrote down that you said. So if people were in disagreement, it was a hit the bricks, get out? Based on your statement you
There would always be a meeting first. It wasn't like a right away thing.
Okay. All right.
I feel like in the meetings it was discussed whether or not it was appropriate for someone to leave.
Okay. And then the response was if it didn't work out in the meetings, they were going to leave. Is that correct?
It really depended on who the person was.
Okay, depending on the person. Okay. And so based on the meeting would determine whether or not the person would left or whether or not they were going to be begged to stay or anything along those lines. Is that fair to say? Okay. All right. You indicated that in Cancun, Mexico, that your statement to the district attorney was that Mr. Bishop or anally raped you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in Mexico, you indicated that you were there for about 2 weeks. That was the last 2 weeks you were around the group, right?
Yes.
This was an Airbnb. Was it, describe the Airbnb for me? What did it look like?
It was an apartment. You walked in, there was stairs to the left, and then there was a balcony. I just remember the stairs going up, there's a balcony, and then there's an outside area. I think that's all I really remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say an apartment, are you talking like a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment?
How many bedrooms? I think it was like 3 bedrooms.
A 3-bedroom apartment in Mexico.
Yes.
Okay. How many people were staying in each bedroom?
It was just the women, so maybe there was like 6, 7 of us.
Okay. And the men were staying outside?
They were at another Airbnb.
Oh, so the men were in a separate apartment?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so you indicated that in this apartment, who was there on the day that this happened to you outside of yourself?
Just the women and Mr. Bishop.
Okay. And
That were there.
who were the women that were in the group at that time?
You want me to say names?
Yes, ma'am.
Honor, Aya, Malia, Eferu. That's all.
Okay. F-R-U-E, F-U-R-U. Okay. So I'm going to repeat those people back to you. Honor is a female?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Aya.
And Zoka, sorry.
And Zoka? Okay. So Velvet, Honor, Aya, Malia, Eferu, and Zoka were all there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so they wanted, Mr. Bishop, according to your testimony, wanted people to approach him as king.
Yes.
Right? And so is this apartment, are all the bedrooms on the same floor?
Yes.
Okay. So was everybody around when he told you, hey, don't approach me in whatever way you said that you didn't?
Only person that was around at this time was Velvet. Everyone else was either in downstairs or wherever, like another room.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, not including yourself or Mr. Bishop. So 9 people in a 3-bedroom apartment. And the only person around for this was who?
Velvet.
Velvet. Okay. All right. And where was this located? On the 2nd floor of the house?
Yes.
Okay. And Velvet and Mr. Bishop were in a bedroom together?
Yes.
Okay. And you came inside the bedroom?
Yes.
Okay. Where was he sitting in the bedroom?
He was sitting on the bed.
On the bed. All right. And so why did Velvet leave the room?
Because he asked her to.
He said, hey, Velvet, get out of here. You can go.
Yes.
Is that right? And you come in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. Do you close the door, leave the door open? What do you do when you get into the room?
She closes the door.
She closed the door behind you. Okay. All right. And she obviously will remember this as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so she closed the door. Does this room have a bathroom in it?
It does.
Okay.
It was like an open, like the bathroom's inside the room.
Okay. All right. And so Mr. Bishop, is he on the bed standing up? What is he doing?
He's on the bed.
Okay. How is he dressed?
He was in a robe.
He's in a robe. What time of day is it?
midday,
Midday.
maybe
Okay.
even like around noon. I'm not sure the exact time.
Okay. All right. And so he's in a robe, and at that point, do you get undressed or he takes your clothes off?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember what you were wearing?
No.
Okay. Do you remember?
I just know that for sure we mainly wore dresses and skirts, so
Okay.
it had to be one of those.
Okay. But you don't know if he took your clothes off or if you took your clothes off?
No.
Okay. Do you know if a condom was used?
No.
Okay.
No, you don't know, or no, it wasn't used?
It wasn't used.
No condom was used?
No.
Okay. And do you know if was anything said to you or did you say anything to him during that time frame?
I don't remember
Okay.
the conversation.
You don't remember?
No.
So you don't know if you ever said, hey, don't do that to me?
No.
Okay. You don't remember conversating with him at all?
I don't remember there being a conversation.
Okay. All right. And so at that point, there is some sort of sexual act in that bedroom or bathroom?
Yes.
Okay. Do you get dressed after that?
I remember him asking me to take a shower afterwards.
Okay.
In the same bedroom.
Take a shower. Okay. And after you took a shower, what'd you do then?
I went straight to the other bathroom because I learned that I was bleeding.
Okay. And who else was in the other bedroom then?
In the bedroom,
The other bedroom.
the other.
Where you went to when you learned you were bleeding. Who was in that room with you?
It wasn't a room. It was just a bathroom.
In the other bathroom, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Who was in there?
There was nobody at first, but then I don't remember the exact women, but there was a few that came inside the bathroom to
Okay.
check on me.
You don't know their names?
I don't remember exactly which ones it was.
Okay. How many do you think came in there?
It was like 3.
3 women? Okay. All right. And you discussed with them what had happened, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't a discussion. It was more so like they already knew what happened because I was bleeding.
Okay. So going back before that, I'm not trying to make you relive through this, but you indicated that he told you that you needed to do some squats, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you indicated that you don't know if you ever told him no or not.
No.
You don't.
No, you didn't. No, you don't remember, or no, you didn't tell him that.
I didn't.
Okay. So you don't know if he knew that you wanted to do it or that you didn't want to do it, right? Because you never said anything, right?
I didn't say no.
You didn't say no.
No.
Okay. All right. And that was in 2020 during the 2 weeks that you were in Mexico.
Yes.
Now, you got married to someone that was actually in this group, correct?
I did.
And who was that?
It was Jacob.
Jacob. Okay. Was Jacob the guy that invited you down there, or that was someone else?
It was him.
Okay. So the same guy that invited you to Costa Rica?
No. He's the one who invited me while they were in Atlanta.
Okay. So a guy that invited you while they were in Atlanta in 2020, you got to know and you guys got married.
Yes.
Okay. And you're still married?
Technically, yes.
Well,
We're not together though.
okay. All right. Have you ever given any any YouTube statements about this case?
Not on YouTube, no.
Bigo or Bijo or something like that? B-I-G-O?
I talked about it briefly on Bigo, but it wasn't like in depth or anything.
Okay. About the case?
Not about the case.
Okay.
About the situation.
About the allegation that you're making?
Yes.
When did you do that?
After leaving, it was maybe like a month or so after that.
Okay. And that's something you did online?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then the last question I have for you, do you recall testifying in a prior hearing?
I'm sorry?
Do you recall testifying in a prior hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Do you disagree that, let me ask you this. In the prior hearing, you testified that Mr. Bishop never told you directly or indirectly that you couldn't leave or anything along those lines. Do you disagree with that statement?
I don't disagree.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, redirect?
Just one thing real quick.
Okay.
Jacob, who ended up being your husband, he left the group with you, right?
Yes.
And the two of y'all were able to find your way out of Mexico?
Yes.
And did you get married to him before or after you all left the group?
Before. It was a few couples we all got married at the same time along with Mr. Bishop.
That was in Vegas,
Yes.
August 2020?
Yes.
And that's all I had. Thank you.
All right. May she be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. You're free to go. You can remain in the courtroom.